Welcome in to the Skol Purple Podcast, episode number 29. Having some issues with my camera here, but here we are. Skol Purple Podcast, episode number 29. Carson Schubert with Kevin Brown. Kevin, how are you doing here tonight? Pretty good after a week one victory?
Exactly. A good week so far.
It's always better when you beat your rival, right?
Yeah.
Very good. Well, hopefully we get some more people filing in here. I know there's my buddies over at the Purple Pocket Podcast, Rap and Dave are also doing a show at this time. So we're trying to get it so we could have more people on the show today, but unfortunately just did not work out to get everybody together. But looking forward to bringing you the show today. And Vikings get the 23-7 victory. Kevin, let's go ahead and just turn it over to you. I kind of gave my thoughts already. Try this and see if this gives you a little better audio here. My thoughts. Hey, how's it going there?
There we go.
You got somebody in. How's it going? Excited for the Eagles game already next week. So appreciate you popping in here. Hopefully the audio is better now. Trying to get my camera figured out, but we'll try and work on that here. But Kevin, let's go ahead and get your thoughts on the game. 23-7 victory, obviously, for the Vikings. So what were your thoughts overall on the performance from the Purple?
Well, I think it was, it was about as good as you could hope for. Coming out of the gate, first game, new regime. The level of confidence is obviously a huge improvement. The players are on board and bought in with things, and that really shows up. And they were very healthy going into that game, and Green Bay a little less so. But they brought their A game, and if they bring that next week at Philly, they have a good chance to win that game too. They were clicking on all cylinders. Lots of stuff to clean up and ways to get better, but very, very promising.
Yes, it was. Still trying to struggle along here, getting things set up, but that's all right. Trying to figure out why my camera's not working, but you know what? That's technology for you, right, yeah. Kevin? It's always fun to try and figure out, but we again appreciate you joining here, Skol Purple Podcast. And I thought the two things I guess one thing I want to just slow the roll for people on here tonight is let's just calm down. We gotta win 23-7. It's only one game, it's only 1 week in the season. I'm excited. Don't get me wrong, I'm excited, but let's not be writing to mom at home and saying, hey, what are we going to get for our Super Bowl hotel room and all this stuff. So let's just slow the roll. Yeah. I think there's a lot of.
If you've ever been a Vikings fan before, this is a long season. This is just the beginning, but
yep.
The fan base like pretty much hangs on every good or bad play, and
yep.
Applies analytics and PFF scores to it and projects that to the Super Bowl based on just one play. But they just they're a different team. A lot of the same players, but some young guys stepping in early, and they played with confidence. And they're a good team. But other teams are going to make adjustments and correct things and play better. And this is the NFL. Like, it is not easy. So slow your roll is pretty good advice.
Yeah.
Sage advice.
Well, I titled this stream here tonight that the Vikings start 2-0 for the first time since 2016. So, obviously that was a great year, you would think, right? They started 2-0. Well, they also started 5-0, and if your memory serves you correctly, you would also realize that the Vikings also uh, didn't make the playoffs. They went 8-8 that season. So before we continue, let's see what Nightinks is saying here. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I'm scared of your guys' offense. Gannon needs to step it up and practice before this game. Gannon, huh? I mean, look, you guys have a great back in Dalvin Cook, too. Is that Gannon their offensive coordinator?
Their defensive coordinator.
Defensive coordinator. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jonathan Gannon.
So not Rich Gannon. I was thinking
No.
maybe you're living in another era there.
No, I think this is from a Philly perspective, and
Yep.
suggesting that the Eagles are going to have to be more creative.
They did some good things offensively for sure,
Yep.
but
Yep, but they gave up a lot
defensively.
of points, and I saw Gannon in his press conference today. Pretty much said we have a lot of things to clean up and fix. So, yeah. But they've
Yep.
got talent too. I mean, the Eagles have some talent, and Green Bay had good talent on defense as well. But the Vikings just really attacked and set the tone.
Yeah.
They played just like O'Connell said they wanted to. So it was impressive.
I'm also worried still. A couple of things, I guess, that are worries. I'm going to go through the worries first, and then I'll give some praises. But a couple of worries. Run defense was not good in the game for, I'd say, probably 3/4 of the game. It seemed like they maybe started out pretty decent, maybe, and then things kind of got worse, especially the second half, which kind of leads me to believe that maybe Green Bay should have ran the ball more in the first half. But I think that's something that needs to continue to improve defensively. And offensively, I just wanted to see them really put the nails in the coffin there. I wanted to really see them go and get one more touchdown in that second half. I mean, we were hammering the Vikings last year for not scoring enough points in the second half of games sometimes. And if Green Bay all of a sudden caught fire, what would the game have been like? So that's something that concerns me a little bit, but I think Kevin O'Connell will make those adjustments as he sees mistakes and where the Vikings could have got better.
I think they feel the same way. As pleased as they are with it, they don't think that's good enough either. And some of the run stuff, the gashes were running at the edges at Hunter and Zadarius Smith, and they had a lead, and they were in a little bit more of a pass rush mode than a set the edge mode, and they had some lapses. But you also had a couple plays there were just phenomenal effort runs by Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. I mean, on some level, you got to just give those guys credit. I mean, it looked like that one run by Aaron Jones, it looked like they really had him bottled up 3 times. And, they just didn't quite get to him and bring him down. So you got to give him some credit for that. And they did leave some points on the field. They missed a few opportunities too. So it could have been a huge blowout.
Yeah, it really could have. But I think the big thing, I was pleasantly surprised with how well the defense played, to be honest with you. Yeah. I don't think most people were expecting it to be that good. Yeah, because I mean, as bad as it is with Aaron Rodgers and those young receivers, like, we knew that somewhat coming in, but we were still like, okay, but eventually Rodgers is going to make the throw. One of those guys are going to make the catch, but it just never happened.
Yeah, and they they pressured Rodgers and made him move around. And by the end of the game, especially after that one hit, I think he was rattled. But there were also plays where the coverage was tight and he held the ball too long. So they were doing something right on the back end too. And I saw even Rodgers said there were some looks that they weren't necessarily ready for or they were surprised by. So that speaks to the coaching again. So um, it was a solid effort, but room to still build. So
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Well, anything else that really stuck out to you before I guess I'll quickly just say some things I was impressed with. I think I was very impressed with Kirk Cousins. I know I've been a critic at times of his, and some others, obviously, of the fan base have been too. But I thought he did a good job, especially that one throw. And I'm sure you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about right when I say it. He's able to avoid pressure from the back end of the pocket, and then he's able to run up, step up, whatever you want to say, and just launch one over the middle to Jefferson wide open or towards the right sideline. But just a phenomenal play. And it seems like those plays have been very few and far between over the first few years of Kirk Cousins, whether or not Kevin O'Connell's the one that influenced it, or maybe Kirk just thought that, this is something he wants to get better at. He got better at least in week one. That was a great play.
It was an outstanding play. And I think, they want him to be a little more active moving within the pocket, and he showed it on that play. And, some people on the other side, talked about that he did the play action the wrong way and he didn't throw a tight spiral. I don't care. That was a big time play and it was on the money. Jefferson didn't have to wait for it. It was in stride right there. It was a 64-yard gain. It was impressive. It was elite Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. I don't know if you had a chance to watch the Kurt Warner videos of last week when he the beginning of the week, he mentioned all these great things that Kirk Cousins does well, and then some of the things that he needs to improve on later in the week, which I agreed with all of it. Like, there's some things that he does really well and some things he needs to improve on. And I think maybe that was one of those plays that in the past he wouldn't have made, but he did today or on Sunday. And I think if he can continue to prove in that, it's going to be hard for defenses against the Vikings. It's already pretty hard, especially when you have, number 18 and then all the other weapons. But if Kirk Cousins is able to continue to improve in his mobility, then things are going to be tough for defenses.
Yep. Even, he was awfully good last year, even with the shortcomings. But if he has one play a game where he does that in the pocket, buys a little time with his feet and then throws a strike, those are going to be a lot of big plays. And they're going to be playing with the lead way more than they have the last two seasons. And it's complementary football. It's just going to take over, and success will breed more success, and confidence will breed more confidence.
Yeah. And then, the pass rush for the Vikings, that was as advertised. Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith, and then we even saw DJ Wanham get in there. That was kind of cool to see. But yeah, that was awesome. And the secondary, other than the first play of the game, I thought played fairly well. Boy, oh boy, how things could have changed if that was a touchdown on that first Green Bay play.
Yeah, it's a different game. It's a different game if he doesn't drop that. So, what are you going to say?
Is it? The thing is, I said to a buddy,
Peterson just got beat in transition, and
oh man, he got absolutely burnt.
He stumbled just a little bit, and you just can't. You don't have room for that margin of error. But even Harrison
concerns me heading into this week a little bit.
Yeah.
But
but I suspect he'll be a little more dialed in on the first play this week.
Yeah, yeah, I
And
would think so
probably
too.
playing it a little more safe. So I might go after him and try something underneath on the first play.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if A.J. Brown and some of those Philadelphia receivers, of course, Devonta Smith, they've got as well. And, it's the return home for Jalen Reagor on Monday
Yep.
night. So that's the big storyline. So
Yep.
should be interesting to see. I think Night Ink said something here as well. Even before the season, I said this would be a loss for us. Okay. I don't know, man. I think Philadelphia's got a chance here because I think the Vikings, now that they have a little tape out there, I think that helps out Philadelphia. Not to say that the Vikings can't change things in a week's time, but I think that helps. And I think also, Aaron Rodgers is a pretty mobile quarterback, but he's not Justin Hurts or Jalen Hurts out there. So I think that's a positive for you guys. And I think if the Vikings aren't able to, they aren't able to disrupt him in the pocket, even if they do disrupt him in the pocket, is he going to be able to go out and make throws out of the pocket, throw some dimes down the field to A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith? So
yeah, I think Jalen Hurts can hurt you with his legs. Like he can run and keep drives alive, and more so than Rodgers. He isn't going to be quite as pinpoint, on a scramble and all that. But he's going to bring something that's new and that they didn't really have to worry too much about with Rodgers. So it's they need to bring the Vikings need to bring their A game here. They can't coast here and go to autopilot at all. They got to have the same passion and intensity here.
And he also says that they need to spread the ball around a little more, which I'm sure they probably will have to do that because I'm sure the Vikings will try and at least take away one of them.
Devonta Smith got shut down pretty good last week, and these other guys, Quez Watkins and Zach Pascal, aren't like serious threats. I mean, Watkins has great speed, but he isn't necessarily a polished product just yet. But he can run by you, just like Chris, Watson did. So,
yeah. Appreciate the questions, man. I think they're gonna have to get some of those other guys involved to beat the Vikings for sure. I think Miles Sanders and whoever else you guys have at running back too. I think those guys are gonna be in for a nice game. I think the Vikings, that still is a concern I have. I'm going to probably stress it till the cows come home, but run defense. I'm really worried about the Vikings' run defense, and I think Philadelphia's offensive line is still pretty darn good. So
it's better than Green Bay's. They're it's pretty solid. Like I don't think there's this weak link that they can attack with those edge guys lining up over a guard.
Yeah.
Like I just don't think it's going to be that obvious. I mean, Hunter and Delirious can beat good guys, but it's just not going to be as easy to exploit.
Yeah. Miles is his favorite player, and then saying their running game was one of the best in the league last year with Miles. And then, of course, too, with Jalen Hurts, we know what he can do in the run game, too. So I think
Miles Sanders can hurt him as a receiver out of the backfield, too.
Yeah.
I think that's a bit of a vulnerability.
We saw that, too.
Where
Rodgers was throwing a lot of short passes, a lot of quick passes.
A lot of quick hitting stuff. And
which he needed to a lot of times.
Yep. And those backers need to fly out to those zones. And he's a good all-around back, Miles Sanders.
Yeah. So those are some of the concerns I have for the Vikings defense. And I think the same concern for the Vikings offensive line from week one is going to be Garrett Bradbury and also Ed Ingram. Neither one of them had a very good pass blocking grade at all in week one. And of course, Kenny Clark, we know, is one of the best in the business, but that doesn't get any easier here in week two. You got the rookie Jordan Davis along with Fletcher Cox, who's been doing it at a high level for a long time.
Yep, I think Jordan Davis only had about 10 snaps or something, but he graded out pretty well, and he's a load, and he graded out well. So I bet he's going to get more reps in this rotation this week, and particularly trying to exploit Bradbury. And Cox is the kind of guy that's going to give Bradbury or just about anybody problems anyway. Yep. And then Javon Hargrave is an underrated inside guy too. So Ingram can help with the anchor, and I don't think these guys are going to outquick him maybe quite the way Kenny Clark did. So I think Ingram will hold up well, and I thought Ezra Cleveland had a really solid game.
Yeah, I think everybody else other than the two right guard and center had a pretty good game.
And honestly, even those guys got beat a couple times, but they weren't terrible. I mean,
they're pretty good in the run game too.
Yeah, and honestly, they got beat pretty bad a couple times each, but otherwise they were pretty solid. They really weren't. They weren't that. They weren't a significant liability. So, especially given how much they were trying to attack those guys with stunts and different things like that, I thought they held up pretty well, actually.
One thing I was going to ask you about is, did you feel that I saw it a couple of times where they brought in guys, Johnny Munt, and they brought in Ben Ellefson to kind of add to that protection on that offensive line. I guess I don't know if it was a lot or not. I didn't keep track of it that closely, but I did see it a few different times. Do you think that helped their case in the interior there to
I don't sense that they use the tight ends to help inside. I know there was one play where Ellefson was one-on-one outside and he got beat pretty bad on a like, it was kind of a mismatch, and you're asking a lot for your tight end to go one-on-one with the top pass rusher.
Yep.
And he struggled on one play in particular. So they're going to see this every week. People are going to, what do they have to bring inside pressure with? That's what they're going to see. And, those three guys in the middle need to work together, and, they might need to help each other. And, hopefully they can build on what they did last week and get better.
Yeah, I think those things are going to be questions all season long. Those are probably the main concerns on this team. But Darius Slay, I think, we didn't see much of shadowing from Jair Alexander. Part of it was the Vikings moving Justin Jefferson a lot, but also part of it was the Packers didn't shadow him. They just didn't. And I think they could have done a better job of it if they really wanted to. But I think they were also somewhat confident in some of those rookies like Eric Stokes as well. Second-year guy. But Eric Stokes had a pretty good season last year, and also Rasul Douglas in the slot there for them as well. So I think they were confident in some of those guys enough where they thought, okay, Justin might beat us every now and then, but we should be able to win some of those. And I feel like the secondary for Philadelphia is probably a little bit weaker, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah, and I think if they shadow Jefferson with Slay, I think you'll see more production out of Thielen and Osborne. Because I think if Alexander wasn't shadowing Jefferson, he probably was locking down Thielen or Osborne more frequently. And I know it's a little bit pick your poison, because I think the Vikings are very, very much three deep, solid at receiver, and an elite guy in Jefferson.
Yeah.
Um, and they aren't going to back down just because they're trying to stop them. They're gonna design and create plays, and they're going to feed them the ball 10, 15 times a game, no matter what they're trying to do. Like they're not going to let somebody take him away. Um, they're still going to work to get him open and move them around and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions there from you, Night Inks? Go ahead and throw those in there if you've got any, or whoever it is. I'm guessing it's Night Inks still with us, but if you have any questions, go ahead and throw those in there. What are some key matchups that we haven't really hit on, Kevin, coming up in this Philadelphia game? Or if you want to go back to the Green Bay game, anything in particular that you saw from that game?
well, I think there was a lot of guys that looked really strong. Delvin Tomlinson had a really strong game, and not just run defense, but pressure inside. Harrison Phillips, really strong game. Bullard, more of a quietly strong game, but pretty steady. And Blacklock was flash on the 10 or so snaps that he took. And then when James Lynch took his turn, it didn't fall apart, because he was in there. So I thought, that was a concern, like how deep are they there? And I thought those guys held up pretty well. Um, and I would expect they'll do similarly, those interior guys against the Eagles. And the key will be those edge guys and those rush guys. So,
Too Evil to Hope got into the comments section here. Shouldn't we trade Madison now that he had a good showing in week one?
it's not.
You think
It's
his
not.
stock went up after week one, Kevin?
I don't know if it. I don't know that it went up, and I just think that it's pretty hard to get a market for running backs. Um, somebody needs to be, I think, closer to thinking they're going to win it all, and view it as a missing link. And I think the Vikings know that they're likely going to lose him, and they have a comp pick most likely coming in return,
Right.
and so that kind of sets the base of what makes sense to trade him.
And I think that's maybe where they've landed on Alexander Madison. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to get a comp pick anyway, unless you're going to give us a third or a second round pick or better. Like,
Yep, I think that's just the reality of it. Is
yeah.
I think they pretty much view that he's a third round pick, losing him. So if somebody steps up and offers more, they would listen.
Because they probably would get a fourth round pick or maybe a third round pick in return for Madison.
It depends on the contract, and I think it's tough for running backs. But I think they want to win this year too, and
Yeah.
he's a pretty healthy rotation guy with Delvin. He runs really hard, and there's some aspects about his game that he's better than Delvin. Like he seems to break more tackles. He seems to carry people. He seems to grind it out more. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But
this is a good point here from Too Evil to Hope
yeah,
as well. I suppose in about 4 to 8 weeks by the trade deadline, a big injury might move the market. Yeah, absolutely.
exactly. And I think that's just the reality of where we are right now. I don't think anybody's gonna step up until we get closer to that trade deadline. And Madison he's good in the passing game too. He can catch the ball and he can pick up the blitz. And
Thought it was interesting.
That's important.
Thought it was interesting that Chandler of all the running backs was out, which it makes sense because Wongwu's the kick returner. But were you a little surprised that they didn't have him active instead of like a Jalen Naylor?
No. Naylor covers kicks, and And that's the thing. Like, I don't think Chandler really does anything on special teams unless he's going to be a return guy. So it was pretty logical that he just has to bide his time right now.
And who knows? It might change when there's a different game plan, like Kevin O'Connell said in the press conference, which I was going to play too here quick, a little piece of that before we continue on to Philadelphia. But he kind of mentioned, not in this piece, but other parts of his press conferences where it might change from game to game depending on the opponent, depending on what their game plan is. Like, maybe next week Chandler will be activated. Maybe he will have to get in some carries because they feel like he runs better against that defense. Different things like that. Like, I think this team is really actually considering some of that stuff where, at least offensively, I don't think that was much of a thing considered in the last regime.
Yeah, I think they've talked a lot about this, and I think we saw that, this last week. I mean, it's pretty remarkable, honestly, for Aaron Rodgers to be saying that they showed us some looks that we weren't ready for. I mean, that's pretty impressive. I don't remember the last time, we really heard that about the Vikings. So,
Yeah.
and they've talked about, basically they're not married to any one thing. They're not married to, 11 personnel. They're not married to a 3-4. And it's, they have some basic concepts, but they tailor their game plan every week, which everybody does. But, that's going to change, personnel that gets more of a look. I'm sure at some point Irv Smith is going to be a bigger part of the passing game, not just dump offs and check offs underneath. Like, I think he's going to be, on their scripted play sheet, and they're going to do stuff with him. And, there might be a week where they have room to rotate more than just two guys at running back.
Yeah.
And, they're going to just pound the ball, or they've got a couple of receiving. They got, maybe they got one play in there for Chandler where he does a wheel route downfield that, they've been not showing that all game, and all of a sudden he's in there and he's lining up in the same place, and all of a sudden he's 25 yards downfield, and they're throwing him the ball. So I think they'll mix it up. And I thought like all the new guys, showed up. Like they,
Yep.
Like Jordan Hicks had a solid game. Physical, smart, right place, right time, attacking the football, trying to rip the football all the time. But he's also not a massive, run stuffer. So
Right.
he can get bounced around downfield sometimes. But
And
he's
I
a
think
good,
we saw that.
he's a good player. He's a good player. He's a good fit for what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, let's hear what Kevin O'Connell had to say about his first game. This was from yesterday's press conference, and then also he talked about a couple of injury situations that the Vikings have.
I was really proud of our guys. I thought Kirk played a really clean, good game. He was aggressive in some spots where we really needed him to be. He was smart with the football. He did a great job managing the offense, running the show. Justin's performance speaks for itself, and that's kind of the standard for him. As we go through the season, I imagine there's going to be some examples of us having to really look to some other people on our offensive skill groupings that we feel really strongly about having, more of a statistical impact, but their impacts were felt with helping us be as efficient and explosive as we were with guys, all 11 doing their job. And then offensive line-wise, I thought we really did a nice job being physical, especially as the game went on in the run game, giving Kirk some time to push the ball downfield. And then ultimately, like I said, holding up against a really strong defensive group in the rush game. And then special teams-wise, Greg Joseph, really solid night for him, career-long field goal. Ryan Wright was extremely solid and a real positive for me. And then just a lot of guys flashed on tape, getting to watch some of those specialists or special team kind of core players like a Metellus, Brian Asamoah, and some DJ Wanham, Patrick Jones really impact the game Chris Boyd, all in their own ways, and that's something we're going to need to see every single week. Just giving you guys an update, we did Andrew Booth did sustain kind of a quad muscle injury, soft tissue type deal. It's something we're still evaluating, kind of trying to see what his weekly schedule is going to be like, to maybe see if we can give him a shot to be ready to go with the extra day this week. Definitely not a long-term thing that we're looking at, but his availability for this week, as the week progresses, I will update you guys on as the week goes on. Lucene should be somebody we expect to get back this week. Lou's, kind of chomping at the bit to get going. He's done everything we've asked from a rehab standpoint. We'll see kind of what his practice schedule and week looks like, but we are expecting to hopefully have Lou, and I'll keep you guys posted if that were to change.
There he is, the head man himself, Kevin O'Connell, after his first win. He was fired up on Sunday. Not quite as fired up there, obviously, turning the page. But the one thing that excited me to hear him say, and I know this may sound a little dull, but when he said in that press conference on Sunday, this league has a way of humbling you real quick. I was glad he said that, because he gets it. He knows that if things, this week one performance was great, but now, like he said also, we got to keep stacking them. And Kirk Cousins said the same thing. So he knows too, stacking them, keep stacking them, stacking wins, stacking good performances.
Yep.
And I'm so glad he said that. And maybe it's something every coach says, but I think the way he said it, he knows, like, obviously now after this first week, yes, we celebrated Monday and Sunday, and now here we are Tuesday. Let's get into it. Let's get prepared for Philly.
Yeah, there's very much a we mentality, coaches and players, versus us and them mentality, coaches and players. And that's distinctive. And, I think that's helpful. And, somebody makes a mistake and the coach doesn't have to say anything. A teammate is there to kind of pick that guy up and encourage him, push through it, let it go, next play. So I think that's going to help, and it's going to keep young guys from imploding. So, and I suspect Booth won't dress. I bet he's inactive against Philly.
Yeah, I would imagine you're correct as well. So, well, let's go ahead and go ahead.
Evans is kind of running ahead of him right now anyway. So I suspect he'll be inactive, and if needed, Boyd might get a few reps. So.
All right, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this Philly game here. Again, I know we already mentioned it. We're kind of hopping all over the place, but that's what's fun about putting in the comments section, getting some thoughts on games already. So love it. Keep it up. If you have questions or comments, even if it's after the show, we will respond. I will respond to you, and we might even mention it on the next show as well. So go ahead and leave a comment even after we have been live here. So, but Kevin, what are you kind of expecting? What are some things that I guess are going to be key for you in this matchup against Philadelphia on Monday Night Football 6 days from now?
Well, I think I expect the offense to move the ball and score points. The defense needs to play well enough that it isn't, 38-35 game. Like, they need to, they might give up some drives, but they need to, that umbrella defense, like, they need to keep things in front of them, and they need to make a drive take, 10 or 12 plays and stuff like that. Eventually, maybe they make a big play or they force a mistake or something. But I think that's the key is really their defense, minimizing big plays, whether that's Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts or Miles Sanders. I think that's the key to this thing going the Vikings way.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. We kind of got gift wrapped a little bit of a drop there from Christian Watson. How fitting was that the first week? And I'm not saying we want to see that again, because I would like to see what happens if the Vikings are in a close game all the way. And even though I'd hate close games for my heart rate's sake, but
23-7 would be fine again.
yeah, 23-7. Hey, I'd take that.
31-7 would be fine.
Yeah.
35-7 would be good as well. So
where do you kind of see things going, like in terms of the game, like before we get into the actual predictions? Do you kind of see it being more of a high scoring game, or do you kind of see it being kind of similar to week one, no more than 23 points for either side?
I think it's going to be slightly more high scoring. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say, yeah. I don't think they're going to hold them to 7 points.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that.
If they do, then this is a pretty special team, at least the first quarter of the season. Oh no, he said 35-7.
Wasn't it 38-7 though?
Yeah, that.
Let's be. Hey, I even know the score better than you there, Night Ink. So
yeah, that was a butt kicking from start to finish.
Yeah, we don't really
phase of the game. So
we don't really like to reminisce about Nick Foles beating us down badly, but
yeah, that was one of the worst beatings I've ever seen.
Yeah, and then you had 41 Donut back in the early 2000s.
Yep. That game against Philly was in that same camp as far as being humiliation. So this game isn't going to go that way either way, in my opinion.
Oh, he did know the score. Okay.
Yeah.
You were 3 points off, so you were close. Okay, I just read a headline saying Saleh taking receipts on those mocking the Jets. Must be renting the Grand Canyon so we can store all those receipts. That's funny. Yeah, the Jets didn't look too great against the Ravens. Was it the Ravens they played? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see if the Jets can turn it around. Wasn't it Flacco starting, or who was the starter for the Jets?
It was Flacco, and it sounds like he wasn't great. So
that's.
But I don't think they have any other options at this point.
Or at least any good options.
Yeah.
Maybe the Browns will trade him Kellen Mond. I said good options. Sorry.
Okay, there's a fair amount of Vikings that got cut.
Yeah.
That are on active rosters now.
It is interesting, Dave, from
like even Wyatt Davis is on the active roster now.
So. Really? Wyatt Davis is, huh?
With New Orleans. He got poached from the Giants practice squad. So.
Wow. You know, it was interesting. Dave from Skol World and Minnesota Sports Talk was saying to me that that Zach Davidson's with the Bills as their third tight end or whatever too. I was like, really? You couldn't?
I think he's just a practice squad guy.
Oh, he's a practice squad guy? Okay. But even still, like, that's a little intriguing to me. But
I think
the Jets are not good.
Shows the overall talent level that the Vikings have right now. It's higher than it's been in a while.
Yep. Yeah, it for sure has. For sure is. Let's go ahead and get into the game predictions then, Kevin, here. I guess I'll go first here. I still think the Vikings are going to lose this game. I just have that feeling. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope I can, be wrong, and the Vikings surprise us again and win again. But I just don't know. There's something weird about Monday Night Football in Philadelphia. All those crazy people. Sorry, not you, Night Inks, but some others. And I I just don't know. I just don't know if they're going to be able to get it done. I think maybe the pressure might get to him a little bit, and I think Kirk Cousins might be under more pressure than he was in week 1 too. So I think that, and maybe the Vikings won't be able to get as much pressure here in week 2. So I think I'm going to take Philly. I'm going to take Philadelphia. I'm going to say 23-17. I think that's what I'm going to go with for Philadelphia to get the win over the Vikings.
I'm going to go Vikings 24-20.
Okay. That's what I had for week 1.
Is that right?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I said I think if the Vikings show up like they did last week, I think they'll win this game and maybe even more handily than that. But I think it's going to be hard to shut down that offense of Philly. So
Night Inks is picking us too. So there you have it.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
So,
that's how you curse the thing.
That's right. That's right. And then Two Evil, Two Hope mentions, I think we need to draft the franchise QB of the future in the next draft. Oh, 100%. I 100% agree with you, Two Evil, Two Hope. We need to. I know Kirk Cousins is probably our quarterback in 2024 unless something catastrophic happens, but we have got to plan for the future better than what we have been in the past. And I think I've mentioned that to you, Kevin, on past episodes. Like, this has got to be the year where the Vikings find a quarterback of the future in the draft. So that way, when Kirk Cousins is gone, you don't have to worry about it. Like, he's there. You just, let him study under Kirk for a couple of years or 1 year, whatever, and let him go.
Yeah, the challenge is, if
actually
you're not
finding a good one.
Yeah, if you're not picking early enough, I don't know that.
Wentz going back to Philly like permanently, or going back for that game when Washington plays Philly. That'll be interesting. That'll be interesting. But yeah, I think
I don't think guys can come back to Philly.
Yeah, probably not.
I think once they leave, I don't think the fan base really welcomes them back. So
yeah. So if you thought the Russell Wilson getting booed last night was bad, just wait till Carson Wentz goes back to Philly.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect any
to Seattle, I should say.
Yeah.
For Wilson,
Carson Wentz will get that brotherly love welcome.
Yeah, that's right. I always find it ironic that Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love, but but anyways, I digress. Sorry, Night Inks. Nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with you. Just some of the other Philadelphia fans, and it's not just Eagles fans either. I found that out that there's some other crazy ones. And here we go. Two Evil, Two Hope. Philly fans are psychotic on their best days, even. Oh wow, on their best days. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. But Kevin, we didn't get a final season prediction from you because you were out last week. So I gotta ask. I'm still at 10-7. I'm sticking to it until things really start to go. And I just wanted to hear what your season prediction is.
I think I'm still at 12-5.
12-5.
I think they're gonna win the division, and I really do. So
yeah,
but injuries could derail that quickly.
When have injuries ever derailed anybody in Minnesota sports?
Well, just the last 2 seasons, but
and the Twins this season.
And the
even
Twins
though they're winning right now, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
But yeah, 12-5. Okay, so I'm still at 10-7. I think if they go 2-0 here in these first 2 games, I think they're undefeated going into the Miami game.
Well, I think we talked when the schedule came out about that, and I think it's this whole season really pivots on these first 2 games. And if they come out of this 2-0, their confidence is going to be really high. So, and then they've kind of taken on a tough part of their schedule, and I think they could get on a roll, and I think things can go from there. So
Yeah. I do know Philly Sports Talk, the guy that was on our episode of Vikings, or of Fan Express Line, I call it, which there won't be one next week. I'll tell you more about that in a minute, just because it's a late game. But yes, Philly Sports Talk dude, he's pretty cool. He's a
a
pretty
lot
cool
of smart
dude.
people covering the Eagles.
Yes.
There's some
Yes.
really smart people.
It's Always Sunny is a documentary.
Yeah. Now the core fan base.
It's
I rode
funny,
the
Too Evil
tram.
Too.
I rode the tram from the Mall of America to US Bank for the Super Bowl when they played the Patriots, and that is the most obnoxious fan base I've ever seen in my life. And I mean, the other half of the train was Patriot fans. So there you go.
Yep.
But
Very good. Well, I tell you what, I'm optimistic, but as I say all the time, I'm cautiously optimistic about the Vikings as we continue on. I still think they probably lose this game, but I mean, do I think that proves that they're a bad team, or they're not going to win the division, or they're not going to be good? I still don't think they're going to win the division. I still have Green Bay winning 11-6 and Vikings 10-7, but I still think this game doesn't mean a whole lot in that terms, but it could when it comes to playoff seeding down the line. So that in that way, it could be a big game.
yep.
But anything else you want to add, Kevin, for your final statement?
I think that we touched on before. I'm interested to see how the look and game plans vary from one week to the next. Like, I expect different guys to show up in this game than did the last one. Although I expect Jefferson to show up every week. But, I think I'm interested to see how they do that. And I'm enjoying learning this new defense. So it's interesting after a lifetime of watching 4-3 scheme.
Yeah, Too Evil Too Hope. Appreciate that. We actually originally started at the end of last season. We previewed the Bears game last year, and that the whole Zimmer getting fired, Spielman thing, that whole chestnut. We talked about that, and also brought you in through the new head coach. We talked about old Harbaugh when that was a rumor. So that was fun stuff. And then Night Inks, he lived in Minnesota for a bit. So sorry that you became an Eagles fan after leaving, but I guess it did bring you a Super Bowl, so you can't complain too much,
I
right?
don't think you have any choice if you move to Philly, do you?
That's right. At least in that 2017 game.
Bears versus Jets. Okay.
All right. Sounds good. They might not win. The Bears might not win another game after that. I don't know. They'll win more games, but I think they're gonna be humbled over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
At least next week against Green Bay. I think
Well,
Green Bay is going to find a way.
They must have about 10 guys on their payroll that used to be with the Vikings.
Yeah, that's right.
So
that's right. That's right.
And I saw the Eagles picked up Janarius Robinson today. They signed him.
Oh, did they? Okay. Okay.
So, which is fine. He's probably got a better shot with the Eagles because he's probably a better fit as a 4-3 end than the stand-up edge thing. So.
All right. Taking up sports was one of his best decisions. All right. Sports are fun, man. It gives us an escape from all the craziness of the world with politics and all the other things that we deal with in life. I hear you, man. It's a good escape, and it's fun when your team is winning. So both of our teams, Philly and Minnesota, winning in week 1. So now
it makes it makes for a whole week being good.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Here we go. Too Evil Too Hope, the GM, taking over for Quasi already. Get Sue and OBJ.
Need more.
We
divas.
need more divas, huh?
I don't know about that.
I don't know, man. Justin Jefferson might be turning into one just a little bit. I still think he's a really good guy, but I think eventually he might get into more of that diva category. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I would love to see OBJ because I still think I'm a little bit less convinced of our wide receiver depth after Amir left, but that's a whole nother thing for another day. But man, you guys just keep on going in. Skol Mafia's in here. Skol, man, we're just about ready to end it here. And I would much rather listen to Joe Buck and Troy Aikman than any politics. And he also says that Joe Buck is actually not as bad as people think. This is my guy right here. This is my guy right here. Night Inks, or girl, I guess. I'm guessing you're a guy. I am a Joe Buck stan, so if that makes you leave right now, that's fine.
Oh,
But
a stan. Wow.
I'm a stan. As a play-by-play guy myself, I love Joe Buck. I think he does an outstanding job. And yes, that call was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Diggs, sideline, touchdown, unbelievable. Vikings win it. I've got the shirt too. I won't go get it and show you, but love it. So
yeah, him and Aikman are pretty good. Aikman's just a little too inherently biased. Certain directions.
Single sporting event to ruin my day. Yeah.
And
the Twins have been ruining my day for the last month, so I'm glad the Vikings are here to help.
Yeah.
Which I don't think I've ever thought I'd say that. The Vikings here to help. He's not your favorite, but he isn't terrible though. That's fair. That's fair. People think he's the actual end of the world.
Yeah.
Oh man. I don't get the hate. The only reason Vikings fans hated Joe Buck in the past was because of the Randy Moss mooning the crowd in Green Bay, and he said it was a disgusting act.
Yeah.
Come on, man, get over it.
Yeah, that was a little too over the top, but that is the reason Viking fans hate him.
Go watch Artie Lang on Joe Buck's short-lived HBO show on YouTube.
I don't know if I'm that interested in watching Artie Lang. But he's a funny guy, Joe Buck is.
Yeah, that's right. Night Inks. It's going to be Joe and Troy. Yeah. My boy. I'm looking forward to honestly, hopefully him calling some Viking touchdowns.
Those guys are a better crew than they've had on Monday Night Football for a long time.
Oh, my gosh, yes. All due respect to Steve Levy and Louis Riddick, but Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are up here. They're down here. And before that, it was just garbage. Ever since Mike Tirico left, it's been a walking disaster on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
But I didn't think Sean McDonough was that bad, but he's more of a college guy, Same thing with Joe Tessitore. I think that's what everybody said, and more of a wrestling guy. So, but anyways, everybody, I think that's going to be doing it for us here tonight. Appreciate you watching. And as always, Kevin, what do we always say?
Skol.
Skol. That's right. Steve Levy and Louis Riddick were not bad. Joe Tessitore was not bad. Booger was bad. Yes, we will agree with you on that one. So have a good night, everybody. Appreciate you all joining and giving us the comments. We love the feedback, so keep on rolling. Also wanted to mention quick, too, before we go, next Monday night, I'm going to be doing a Twitter Spaces on the Skol Purple Podcast not YouTube channel, on the Skol Purple Podcast Twitter account, because Twitter Spaces. I'm going to be doing that at halftime of the Monday night game. We're not going to do a Vikings Fan Express line next Monday night. We'll be doing a kind of a halftime thing because it's going to be late after the game. And then we'll have an episode for you next week sometime to recap that and then look ahead to week 3. And we might come up with some other content for you right here on the YouTube channel throughout the week. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Too Evil, Too Hope. See you as well. Thanks for joining. Night Inks, appreciate you joining as well. And everybody else that joins us in the aftermath of everything. Kevin, again, thank you for joining. And as you said, as always, Skol.